the Twin Theory Podcast, Season 2, Episode 3. All right, so everyone, welcome back to the Twin Theory Podcast.
Back to the podcast.
This is episode 3 of our twin series. If you've been listening, me and Marissa this season, we have been talking specifically about our experience as identical twins. The first episode, we answered 10 common questions for identical twins. The second episode, we had a special guest, our brother, who was able to give a little bit of insight. And not sure how many of you all are following me and Marissa the Twin Theory Podcast on Instagram,
Right.
but we gave a little bit of a hint. We posted a picture of us and one of our favorite females,
Yes.
and said, can you guess who's going to be our
Next guest, y'all.
special guest? So without further ado, we're into episode 3, and we have probably the most important interview of this whole series.
One of the most, because I don't want anybody else getting sensitive.
One of the most.
This
is one half of 2.
Yes.
How about that? One half of 2. But we have our mother.
Yes, Mama's on today.
We have Mother on today, so we're so very excited to ask her some questions to get some insight on this. So for all of you all listening that are expecting twins or want to have twins or just want to know more about, what it's like being a mother of twins, we have our mother on today.
Got her on today, y'all.
So without further ado, my mother, and this is the first time I've really said my mother's full formal name. And then after that, I'm going to go back to my mother.
So she's going to be Mama for the rest of the episode.
She's going to be Mama for this episode.
We're going to give you her full government right now.
But I will let you, Mother, Dr. Michelle Boone Thornton, introduce yourself for our listeners.
Well, hello, listeners. I am Mom. This is the first time I heard Mother, but I'm usually Ma. But for this episode, I'd like to introduce myself. I do a lot of different things, wear a lot of different hats, but professionally, I'm a university professor and I work in a department. I'm associate chair for the human services department. So I think I know a little bit about people. Well, at least I thought I knew a little bit about people till I had Courtney and Marissa. And I just love being with people. I did mental health for many, many years, work with children. I have a specialization in children and did therapeutic summer camps, therapeutic school-based programs. So I felt like I was kind of like an expert in children. And as you continue to listen to this podcast, you'll see that I was not. And so that's me.
That's great, Mother. I'm glad with your transparency that
we definitely appreciate it.
It's a learning curve. I'm sure there's been a bit of a learning curve, but so very excited to have you on the Twin Theory Podcast in this episode and to be able to, just get some of your thoughts and insights and, your experience.
Yeah.
So
we certainly appreciate that.
Yes. So we are going to kick off the questions.
Yep.
So
ready?
Sit tight and get ready. The first question, and I'm sure this question, a lot of people are wondering. And even me and Marissa are wondering.
I don't think we ever asked you this, Mother.
I don't know if we ever asked you this question, but the question is, what was your reaction when you found out you were having twins, identical twins at that?
Yep. What was your reaction, Mama?
Well, the twins were my first set of children. So that was number one. So This was my first baby, I thought, and then I found out it was 2. And I was a little fearful because I really hadn't spent a lot of time around little children. And now here I have kids, which I always wanted, and it's 2 at the same time. So I felt like I was going to be a little overwhelmed. I'm a person that likes to plan things and like to have stuff scheduled. So, you can kind of work with 1 kid, but with 2, So I thought, wow, this might be a little bit much. I wasn't too fearful because, my husband has always been there, great dad, great supporter, and then I had wonderful support from my mother and father. So I was a little overwhelmed and anxious, but not too much.
Okay.
Okay. So that's a pretty, calm reaction. A little overwhelmed, but you know that you had your support system, which I think is always good, especially when you know you have a multiples, I guess.
Right.
And so you mentioned that you were thinking that you were having one, which I think most mothers assume that they're only going to have one,
right.
and then they get in there. So was it a total complete surprise to you? So just for our listeners, there are on both sides of our family quite a bit of twins.
Mm-hmm.
So
There's more than 10 sets.
yeah, there's quite a few sets of twins in our family. So was it a complete surprise when they told you that you were having twins, or how was that for you?
Yes, it was a complete surprise.
Oh.
Your father and I had been married a little over a year when I got pregnant and then found out it was twins. And then he wasn't surprised because he was like, oh, yeah, this is the seventh set of twins in my family. Now, I think he should have led with that on like the second or third date because that could have changed some things. But he wasn't surprised. I was. And then I started finding out about all of these twins all over the place. So
It
yeah,
sounds like he was kind of rooting for the twins.
Right.
he was rooting for a house full of kids.
Yeah.
So yeah, the twins, he was excited.
Okay. And so for our listeners that listened last time, they know that we have a brother that's
Mhm.
9 years younger than us. So you have had the pleasure of carrying twins and carrying a single, just one, baby.
Mhm.
How would you describe, is it any differences that you had with carrying me and Marissa as twins versus carrying my brother as a single baby?
Well, it kind of should have been, but really it wasn't because you think when you're carrying twins, that's a lot to carry. But when you guys were born, you were premature, and one of you were 3 pounds and one of you were 2 pounds. But your brother was 10 pounds.
Yeah.
So he felt
Double.
more like the twin than you all did.
Okay. Understood. So not too bad. You might have felt 4 kicks with us, but you felt more weight with him. So okay.
Yeah, that was a real kick. Okay,
Okay.
y'all had a little, like a little pinch here and there, but he had a full kick, like a
Yeah.
football kick. Okay.
Okay.
And I could imagine that, and it's probably interesting for a lot of people to hear. And one thing, of course, you did mention is that me and Marissa are, we were preemie babies, so we were kind of not all the way cooked, so we were real small, and our brother was real big, so it kind of balanced out,
Oh, right.
sort of balanced out. You're like, I don't know about all that, but
Love up the balancing out, but yeah. Mhm.
Okay. So to follow that up, so did you have any concerns about raising twins? I know some parents, especially first time parents, have concerns in general about raising their first child, but with it being two of us and now we're twins, did you have any concerns about raising twins?
I did. The first concern was that I had never raised one child, let alone two.
Mm-hmm.
The other concern was that I wanted you all to have your own identity. And a lot of times twins are kind of just, it's like a connection. Courtney and Marissa, not just seeing Courtney and then Marissa, or Marissa and then Courtney. I really got on people who would get in that whole Courtney, Marissa. And I'm like, well, why can't you say Marissa's name first? So I really wanted to make sure that you each had your own identity, and that you had your own things that you liked separately or disliked separately, and wanted to avoid that whole connection that twins normally have in the eyes of others.
Okay, so hold on for the listeners. Just to clarify, this is Marissa, and I really appreciate Mother taking time to call out me being addressed before Courtney, because I feel like some people do address Courtney first. So thank you for that, Mother. I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
yeah, we
Absolutely. And I wanted to make sure that happened because Courtney stole your birthright.
Hey, get it right now. Get it right.
You, if I had natural birth, would have been the oldest twin, and then Courtney would have been the youngest. So, but because I had to have a C-section, emergency C-section, Courtney came first. And so it was just always Courtney and Marissa. Even when they asked, how are the twins? And I really stopped people from saying the twins. When they would say it, I would say your names, Marissa, Courtney, and they would say, oh, yeah, yeah. So I really wanted to make sure that you all did not feel like we're twins. We have to do everything together. We have to, like the same things. Now, I did dress you alike because I just thought it was cute. But, you all grew apart and kind of became your own people and your own styles and things like that.
Yeah, and I definitely appreciate that. And I do think, Marissa, you do deserve your individuality as well. There
Thank
was a
you.
lot of one word. It was like one name, Courtney
It's
Marissa.
like a run-on
Yeah, it
scene.
was like a run on. It was like, no, not even Courtney and Marissa. I think at some point in time they took the and out and it was just like Courtney Marissa,
Yeah,
Courtney Marissa,
yeah.
Courtney.
Your great grandmother, she would run the names together, Corissa and Morissa. And I was like, no, Nanny, that's not it. But she would argue with me. So, of course, she was right.
Yeah, we got to give it to the elders. If whatever
Yes.
they say, go. It's like,
Yes.
okay. I understand that, but definitely yes. And Marissa was supposed to be born first, but it was God's will. Nothing
Okay.
happens outside His will.
Okay.
So.
All right. Okay.
You're going to make it biblical.
She
We
going
gonna,
to
I got to put all of that in there.
Amen, Sister Thornton.
And so when having twins, I think it's a major thing that parents that have, singles do not have to worry about. But you found out, hey, you're having twins, they're identical. I will let you talk about the sex of the twins because I think at one point in time, from our understanding, I'll let them have your understanding, but you were thinking that you were having a boy and a girl. But for this question, at the time that you were aware or informed that you were having two girls, was there any pressure on you when it came to the names and having the names rhyme, or just give us your story or your background on the names and naming twins?
Okay. I'm so very glad you asked
Okay.
because of all those twins that you talked about that run in the family, they have rhyming names. And so there was a lot of pressure for the names to rhyme in some kind of way. And I was definitely against that, definitely against that. Um, when I found out at first, you got to remember, this is back in 1990 and all the technologies that they have now, they didn't have then. They could tell me it was two babies, but the first ultrasound or whatever I had, they said, I know I think it's a girl and a boy. And so we just went with that. And so we started, preparing for this girl and a boy. And so thinking in our head about names. And so I wanted to have something, as part of the family. I wanted to kind of get input from people and all of that. And then everybody started giving me these names. And then I thought, why did I ever open that up like that? Because I had names that I liked myself. But the names I liked weren't traditional names. And my mother did not have a traditional name. Her name was Pocahontas. And she was teased all her life about that name, to the point where as an adult, she used initials like P.H. Boone. I was probably in about the 4th or 5th grade before I knew her name was Pocahontas.
Yeah.
So that's how much she disliked having a different name. So when I told her names I like, which was Troy, Courtney would have been Troy, Michelle, and Marissa would have been Ty, Nicole. She's like, oh no, don't you name them that. She threatened to not let me come over for dinner or
Oh
anything.
Lord.
That's a big
She was just gonna cut her sister totally off if I named you all those names. And so my brother at that time, Michael, said, I have always loved the name Courtney. And if you know anything about me and my brother, we was thick as thieves, we was the besties. And so
Mm-hmm.
he loved the name Courtney. And so I said, okay, Courtney. I had an aunt. Her first name was Elizabeth, my little favorite aunt, and I was gonna make it Courtney Elizabeth. He's like, no, no, Courtney Michelle. Okay, so we went with Courtney Michelle. And so then once we found out it was two girls, my husband said, wait a minute. He named one of the twins. I should get to name one of the twins. Okay.
Oh
So
boy.
his first name is Virgil. And so he wanted a name that started with V. And so he went to Victoria, Vivian, Virginia. This is not going to work. So one of our really good family friends was stationed in Germany then, which are Courtney and Marissa's godparents. They had a daughter, and her name was Marissa. And he was like, what is that name? It was so pretty, I couldn't remember. Well, at this time, I've gone on into have the babies. So he finally contacts Warren, who was in Germany at that time, got the name. And I said, well, whatever the name is, put Nicole to it. Because my cousin Nicole, she was here for college. So I was like, put Nicole. So that's why we came up with the names. But I didn't get the names that I want. So for the mothers that are out there, whatever you want to name your twins, go ahead and name them. Don't ask for any parental input or family input. You name your children what you want to name them. This did work out, Courtney and Marissa, because they seem like their names now. If I had went with the other names, I don't know. But yeah, whatever it is.
We would have made it work.
Yeah, we actually use it as our alter ego now anyway.
Yeah,
I'm Ty and Courtney uses it as Troy.
That's
So we support the Ty and Troy decision, Mama. If you ever wondered, we loved it.
We love that's our alter egos for those that don't know.
Worry.
So with that, all of that led up to the names after you announced their names are Courtney and Marissa. And even when we would, let's say, go to family functions or meet family for the first time, did you ever receive any backlash? Did they ever, kind of come at you wrong or turn up their face or do anything when, you said, hey, this is Courtney and Marissa, or this is Marissa and Courtney, these are my twins? After the fact, did you ever get any backlash because of our names didn't rhyme?
Well, I think there was backlash in people's minds, in their head, but it didn't really come out of their mouth because I'm not that individual. I'm just
we know.
They
would have had the wrong one. Is that what you're saying?
Sure they probably were saying to themselves, why didn't they name them? Why their names not rhyming and this, that, and the other. But no one really ever came to me and said, except for one of my sister-in-laws did come and ask me that. But, that's all. She was like, well, why didn't you do rhyming names? And, I just like, because I don't want them to be rhyming names. And we were good with that. But yeah. So I think in their minds, a lot of people, even when people would stop me on the street and say, oh, the twins are so cute, the very next question was, what are their names?
Absolutely.
That's the very next question. And when I would tell them Courtney and Marissa, they would just like kind of have this puzzled look on their face like, oh, like they weren't expecting that. But a lot of people do expect for the names to rhyme.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, Mom, and some of the things that people said, if we would go out in public or in parks and stuff, because I think I was talking to Marissa about how things have changed over time. I feel like it's more acceptable in 2021, even if you had named us Ty and Troy in 2021, it's more acceptable now, whereas in 1990 it was kind of taboo to name a female with I guess you could call it a traditional male name, or, for twins to not have rhyming names. It was a little taboo back there in the 90s. So it was, you're a trailblazer.
Well, you got to also understand that Courtney was a multi-sex name. I knew men that I, grew up with whose names were Courtney. I know grown men now whose names are Courtney. So that was kind of like not really cutting edge. They had just started to accept girls with male names, but Troy, and I knew girls named Troy as well. So I just, didn't want to hear everything everybody had to say. And I just went on with, okay, My husband had a point. If your brother gets to name one of them, I get to name one of them. So I just wanted everybody to be happy. Take these twins out, and we'll go from there.
Understood.
I understand the pressure. Look, just take the twins out and we'll
Just get
hash
them
it
out.
afterward.
Get them out.
Okay. So that's good. Going into the names and how everything was leading up into our birth. Now we have some questions after the birth, some things that you experience or things that, I know for me and Marissa, we've been told a few things, but definitely want to hear it, on the record officially from you. Um and so the first question, it's a simple question. We have a few more, in detail questions, but the first one is, did you ever mix us up?
Be honest. Be honest.
Several times.
Okay.
Yes.
All
Several
right.
times. To the point where, and I've got to tell this one, I took you guys for your checkup. I think it was maybe 6 months, something like that. Because Courtney was born with a heart arrhythmia, and she had like an arrhythmic beat. And so when I took you all, but she was not on medication at that time. When I took you all for the follow-up or a checkup appointment, the doctor would always say, okay, which one is which? Because he didn't know either. And he said, well, let me do Courtney first. And so I had given him Marissa thinking it was Courtney. And he was like, oh, her heart sounds really, really good.
Oh.
Hmm. And so he's just writing and writing and writing. And so he said, well, let me check Marissa. And then so he checks Marissa. He said, Mama, you got it mixed up. This is Courtney.
Ah.
So
It
I
happens.
know there were some times that I had gotten you guys mixed up. When you were little, I kept them little newborn bands on you till you got too big for them. And then I polished the fingernail, and then the polish came off. And what really helped me out is as you started to get a little older, Courtney had a mole in her hand, right in the middle of her hand. And I thought, thank you, Jesus. Now I know who's who. And so when I would get you mixed up, I say, hold out your hands. And y'all would start crying, thinking you're going to get a spanking. But I was just trying to figure out who was who.
Aw.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was going to be the follow-up question: is what methods did you use? Did you have to mark somebody's foot, or when it came time to us, taking a bath that we bathed together? Did you ever accidentally pick up, Marissa and think that she was me, or anything like that? So
Well, it was probably by the time you guys were, I guess it was stages as you develop. Like it would be sometimes where you didn't really look alike, and I know. And then it would be moments as you get a little older where you all just really looked alike, and you always sounded alike.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
let me just get that out there. And you still sound alike. I kind of listen on the phone for a couple of words, and I'm like, okay, that's who that is. And the fact that I have caller ID and your name pops up. But yeah, I had all types of little things that I would do. The polish doesn't work because you take baths, and you took baths together, and you played together, and you did a lot of things together. Your room was together, everything was together. But that's why I really pushed so hard that you all just develop your individual likes and dislikes. Even though one twin, and I won't say which one, always agreed with the other one. And I would like, do you want such and such to eat? If one twin said yes, the other one would say yes. I was like, you don't have to eat that if you don't want to. But I guess that's this twin nature.
yeah, and that's interesting, Mom, that you mentioned that, because I actually have heard that with a lot of identical twins. There's one that kind of, is a more aggressive, if you will, and the other one just kind of follows along,
Yes.
and then at some point they both kind of go in opposite, or they
Just different
grow into
directions.
into their own individualness. But like in the baby stages and growing up, it's normally one will follow the other. And I've heard when they're fraternal twins, a lot of time it's the female twin that will follow the male twin. Like
Oh,
she'll follow the male twin a lot, and then once they get a little bit older, they'll both start to kind of branch out. So that's interesting that you said that.
Mhm.
So, all right. So we have a few more questions for you, but this is what we're going to do. Because for our listeners that listen in, they know that our podcast is about 30 minutes. We give you all about, something close to 30 minutes. So you're just a little easy to digest. You on the way to work, and then we let y'all go. So we're going to chop this into two parts. So for this first part, we hope that you all have thoroughly enjoyed the interview with our mama. We call it madre, everything. I think every
yes.
version of mom, I think mom has gotten. And so definitely able to kind of dive in that before the twins came, a little after the twins came. We have a few more questions for our mama that we will discuss in the part 2. So make sure you stay tuned for the information for the part 2. But for this first part, we want to kind of wrap it up. We want to thank our mother.
Yes, definitely, for sharing her insights and experiences.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, mother, for coming on. I'm sure there are plenty of twin mothers that are ecstatic to hear this and get some, insight from you. So we actually have some twin mothers that follow us on Instagram.
Yeah.
So they're definitely probably going to be interested in listening to this. For you all, as we say every month, if you have any questions, any comments for us, or hey, for our mother, you can hit us at the Twin Theory Podcasters at gmail.com. You can also tune in to any major podcasting platform. We're on every major podcasting platform. We are on YouTube. Make sure you like this video. You hit subscribe. You can leave us a comment on our YouTube page. And as we mentioned, we're on Instagram.
We're on Instagram now,
we are Twin Theory Podcasters on Instagram. So you can follow us on Instagram. We give you a little sneak peek, some little twin trivia, twin facts, some pictures and whatnot, so you can reach out to us many different ways, and we're very interested in getting your feedback. But again, we want to thank our mom for tuning in to this part 1, and we will have more for you in part 2.
All right, stay tuned, y'all.
Stay tuned.